Hey, shalom, shalom. I'm knocking on Waha'i Bar Sha'aleh with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nacham Atam Kayaha Malak Wathashamayim Korab, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say, call light and law, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Racha HaKodash. A double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, that are pushing truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. How you want to walk, which is a good day. All right, so essentially we're going to get into what they call Edenics because in the world, so-called scholars, they'll say, as we know, it's a language that goes back to the Garden of Eden, really to creation, going into the Lashon Kodash, the Holy Tongue. So we'll go ahead and give the definition for Edenics.
Pull it up real quick.
Because even when you look at language, you can just look at different words and you can tell that, hey, this comes from the Holy Tongue. All right, it's different traces. When you go back to the Tower of Babel, Genesis 11, it talks about, how the Lord confounded the languages. All right. And we can see that pretty much, that the languages was confounded, it was faded away, but we can still see traces that Hebrew, Bahalashma Kodash, in the Holy Tongue, that is the true language,
Let's see. I can't find a definition for it.
Okay, it should be on, just get on Google.
Okay, Okay, it says, let me see. It says relating or characteristic of the Garden of Eden. It says, let me see, unspoiled, idyllic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. That's pretty much all I see for it.
It's like dictionary.com, or is it like a Wikipedia?
Because, yeah. Oh, shit, hold on. It's not working now. Yeah, that's pretty much all it says.
When you go into the word Edenics, depending on the one that you pick on, it'll say like with phonics, with different things like that. Edenics is talking about it's going into a language. So Edenics pretty much, it talks about how every language stemmed from a root language. We can see that throughout history, and cultures. All right, but we'll start with.
Okay, I got you right here.
You got it.
It says the belief that there was a single original human language dating from the Garden of Eden until the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, so it was a single language, which the Lord, after the Tower of Babel, the Hebrew was still around, but everybody wasn't speaking Hebrew after the Tower of Babel because that's when the Lord confounded languages and faded them away. All right. So we'll get that definition in Exodus 15 and 20 for Miriam. Baba Kushah.
This is Miriam. This is Miriam in the Strong's G or Strong's H. Salakia. It reads H820 or 4812. It reads Miriam, rebellion, the elder sister of Moses and Aaron.
Mm-hmm. So Baba Kushah, could you click on? It's a root word. It should say Maria. You see it?
Yeah, it's loading up right now.
Okay.
It says
so and then click on that root word.
Okay. It says to be contentious, Strong's H4784. It says to be contentious, be rebellious, refractory, be disobedient towards, be rebellious against.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll stay there and then click over to the right. It's an arrow to the right.
It says marah.
Uh-huh.
And it says bitter.
Yeah, bitter. And then could you go down into the Strong's lexicon, Baba Kasha?
God.
Because when we look at it, the word the verb that it comes from is mara, which means to be bitter, to be contentious, rebellious. Um, it can be bitter food, bitter water, But what we'll see is you got different words in history that actually take this those three letters and it mean the same thing in each word.
God. It says bitterness um, of a bitter or brackish fountain in
Mm-hmm.
the peninsula of Sinai,
Mm-hmm.
according to the probable opinion of Burckhardt. The same is now called uh, what's it say? Bahara,
Mm-hmm.
not the fountains of Moses.
Right. So marah because it's bitter. All right, when you put it together in Hebrew, you got a ma, which is water, mayam, and then you got a ra, which is ra'ash, mayam ra'ash. All right, head water. Because when you look at if you look at a river, it got a starting point. All right, and the starting point is where they got the bitter water. So the head waters. If you Google head waters, it'll tell you about the waters, and pretty much that's what the river starts. But as we know that a river is fresh water, and like as it starts to trickle down like a waterfall, rocks and stuff like that, it actually gets filtrated, and then the fresh water is at the end, like the end of that stream. So the headwaters was always bitter. But what we'll see is that with names like Mary, Miriam, Labramar, which is a stone, all right, marine submarine, Del Mar, Florida, all these come from the Hebrew word marah, and we'll see that Adonai Tazah through the spirit. Could we get could you get the etymology for Larimar? Larimar, Baba Kasha?
Spell it again, Bokusa.
Huh?
So you can spell it again.
Larimar.
Lava Mar.
It should be on Edamon online or Edam online.
Trying to see.
Okay. But Larimar is it's a stone. It's a precious stone that the Lord made. Cause the Lord said He made medicines out the earth. So Larimar is a stone that's found. I believe it's in the Dominican Republic. All right, and the Lari part it comes from Larissa. Shalom Ake Yabashma Shabrakata.
So,
While Larimar, the Lari part comes from Larissa, and then the Mar part, of course, goes into the sea. That's the Spanish word for sea. In Spanish they call the sea Mar. That's why when you go to Del Mar, Florida, Del in Spanish I believe is from or of. Mar is the sea, of the sea. Del Mar, Florida.
'cause it's not coming up on the. It's coming up on Google, but it's not coming up on the Adam online.
What does it say on Google?
It says a. It says what? It just so like yeah. It's got the stone like you was talking about.
Just a stone.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all good. But yeah, again, Labramar, it gets the Mar part is Larissa, and then the Mar part means sea. Larissa and then sea. Because if you look at the stone, it's like a super like blue stone, looks like water almost. Baba Kashak, could you get the etymology of submarine? Because again, the root word hadabar sharash, the root word, or it's like hasharash the bar, the root word was marah, or it comes from marar, which means to be bitter, contentious, rebellious. All right, when we looked at I believe it was Miriam, Mariam, she was rebellious. She rebelled against Moses Masha.
God. It This etymology of submarine. It reads a vessel that can remain underwater, being
Uh,
propelled when entirely submerged. Um, a what does it say? Earlier as a noun, it meant to a creature living under the sea.
under the sea. So when we talk about marine, when you talk about like aquatics, a lot of times they say marine, submarine, sub, under. Marine means water. They pretty much got that from the word mara, all right? And they took the short version mar, all right? That's why we see Labramar, Delmar, marine, submarine, and the different variations of mar, because it essentially goes into bitter or brackish water like we got in the blue letter, you know?
God,
So we'll go ahead and get we'll start with Genesis 11 and verses 1 to 9 because again we can see traces of the language in every language.
God,
That's why you look at if you Google the sun god, the so-called sun god, his name was Shamash. All right, because in Hebrew, Shamash is sun. And it actually says it on the Wikipedia, and it spells it in the Lashon Kodash, which is the holy tongue.
God. It's Genesis chapter 11 and verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
Going back to the term of Edenics, because again that term goes back to it was a belief, which it is a belief that it was one language stemming from the garden to the Tower of Babel, you know,
God,
which is the Halashwan Kodash, which in turn which we can find in Barash Genesis chapter 10, stemming from Ibar because he essentially took on those customs. Ibar, which is Eber, which means past or from beyond, because he took on the language, he took on the customs of the past. That's who the Lord was dealing with.
and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found plain in the land of Shinar and
Mm-hmm.
dwelt there.
Yep. You keep going. We go to verse 9.
God. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and
Mm-hmm.
slime had they for mortar.
Yep.
And they said, go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach into heaven. And let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and
Mm-hmm.
they all have one. It's like, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing they have imagined to do. I was
Yep.
like,
So,
and nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
right. So it says the people as one. So they pretty much was all the same. When you go into that word one, it'll tell you achad, which that's how you say it, Bahalashwan Kodash, or Ba'abarith, in the Holy Tongue or in Hebrew. But Achad goes into one, but then also alike. So they pretty much all the people had the same mindset. But the Lord always kept a remnant, that wasn't going to go with the status quo of society or go with them societal norms, so to speak.
Right. Verse 7. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language,
Hmm.
that they may not understand one another's speech.
Right. So it says, "Let us go down," which this is the Alahayim, the angels. It says, and there confound their language. That word confound is balal, to fade away. And it says to soil, to stain. All right. Why does it say to soil, to stain when you go into that root word? Because soil and stain, if you look at English, it's the shittiest language, but coming from the holy tongue, everything just started to like fade away. That word balal goes into fade away because it don't have the same force, the same power. And we got an example of that when we looked at submarine. It don't say bitter water; it just says water, like a sea, you know. But the word mar actually goes into bitter water, because the water, the head waters, mayam ra'ash. All right, the head waters. Those are the two words that's compounded into mar. All right, pretty much the head waters was bitter, but we see how it pretty much is watered down. Same thing with Qatar, the country Qatar. Qatar means incense in Hebrew, but they're using it as a because of the smoke, you see. But that country is rich in like gases and stuff like that, so they took that Hebrew word and they applied it to like burning the natural gases because that country is rich with like resources and oil.
Right. God, continuing on, verse 8. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they
Mm-hmm.
left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel,
Mm-hmm.
because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them upon all the face of the earth.
Right. So it said the Lord scattered them, and that place is called Babal, which comes from Balal, but it means confusion because the languages was pretty much confounded. All right, and it was just a watered down version of Hebrew. Like even when we look at English, it's just a very watered down version of Hebrew because we can see different traces of the language. So it's no way that scholars, so-called scholars, can say, "Hey, no, that's the wrong language." No, we can see the traces of the language in each language: Spanish, English, some versions of Latin. If you look at the word dentist, it has the DENT, but when you see dentist, dentistry, dental, we know it's talking about teeth. All right, that corresponds with the word shan, which means teeth in Hebrew. And it'll tell you that in the blue letter. You see, so we can see different traces of the language in the different languages that we see on the earth today. So from there, let's get I get Genesis chapter 10. This is Barbara Ashith, Genesis chapter 10, and I'll get we'll start at verse 1. It says, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Sham, Ham, Wa, Yapath, and unto them were sons born after the flood." All right, Ham means hot. All right, Sham means name, renown, all right, report, because that's who the Lord was pretty much dealing with at that particular moment. You see, Sham, Ham, Wa, Yapath. All right, Yapath, that goes into being enlarged because pretty much Genesis, I believe it's 9 and 27. I'm going to get it real fast. This is Genesis, Barbara Asher, chapter 9 and verse 27. It says, "The Most High shall enlarge Yapath, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem." All right, because the Lord was dealing with Shem. It says, "And Canaan shall be his servant." All right, Canaan is Canaan. All right, which that goes into a lowland. But see, the Canaanites, they was traders, they was traffickers, they was super into trade. That's why you got the so-called Phoenicians, but they're really Canaanites, but they were super into business and stuff like that. But it says enlarge Yapath. All right, because when you look at Yapath, Japheth, they had Europe all the way to like Russia, and I believe they got the islands now. You see, because pretty much it was pushed out of there because Esau pretty much went into Greece, but the first Greeks was Yawan. All right, or Slak. Yawan is known as Greece, but the first Greeks was Yapath, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
You see, but continuing on, it says I'm gonna go to the point, verse 25. Just getting a little backstory. Let's go to verse 25. This is Bara Asher, Genesis chapter 10 and verse 25. It says, "And unto Ibar were born two sons. The name of one was Palag, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan." All right, it's a lot in that sentence or in that precept. All right, it says, "And unto Ibar." Ibar is again from the past. It could because he kept on them customs, he kept on the traditions, he kept the language. He kept the history. That's who the Lord was dealing with. You see, that's where we get Hebrew. All right, you got and Hebrew consists of many different peoples. You see, but the Lord always kept that righteous line because from Ibar it went to Palag. All right, and in Palag's days, Palag goes into division. That's why it says, "For in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan," which I believe that's Yaktan, Bahalashwan Kwadash in the Holy Tongue. And Palag, we found that account in Barash, Genesis chapter 11, because that's where it said pretty much the Tower of Babel. So in his days is when the Tower of Babel occurred. All right, and I'm gonna keep going. It says, and Hadaram and Uzal and Dikla and Obal and Abiyama'ala, all right, and Sheba and Ophir and Havilah and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. All right, pretty much it gives you a detailed summary of like all the sons, the lineages. All right, because I'm gonna get a couple more. It says these are the sons. I'm gonna skip down to verse 31. It says these are the sons of Sham after their families, their tongues, in their lands after their nations, because pretty much everybody had their respective lands. All right, because the Lord created, I believe it's in Bon Sarat. Could you get it if you know where it's at? But it says He made everybody diverse. You know, made the people different.
Let's see. This is Sirach 33 and 11. It reads, "In much knowledge the Lord hath divided them, and hath made their ways diverse."
Yeah, and much knowledge the Lord divided everyone, all right, and made the ways diverse. That's why we don't see Mawa Abba Moab. You know, they don't act like Jake. They over there chefing up rats and stuff like that. You got Esau. You know, he was made to be the super wicked. All right, you got Elam. You know, he wicked. You know, he makes some good ass food, but you know, he wicked. You know, everybody has their different. You know, everybody comes from a different class, so to speak. And then even also amongst you know, the tribes, but all the tribes are the Lord's people. All 12 tribes, and all 12 tribes are diverse. Everybody has a different spirit. Everybody has different gifts, you know.
Right.
That was it inside that precept.
Let me see if there's any more. Slovakia. Okay, it's Sirach chapter 33 and verse 12. It says, "Some of them hath he blessed and exalted, and some of them he hath sanctified and set near himself. But some of them hath he cursed and brought low and turned out their places."
Right. And the ones that you know, he did that to was you know, these other nations. All right, the Lord made 18 nations. All right, but one nation he's dealing with, you know, the Lord said he chose one lily of the all the flowers, you know, one tree, one one people, roughly paraphrasing. I can't remember where it's at, but essentially it goes into that. But Bob Kashak, could you get Zephaniah 3 and 9?
This is Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 9. It reads, "For then will I turn unto the people a pure language,
A
that they
pure
may
language.
all." Mhm.
So like, it says a pure language, which that word goes into I believe it says tahawar. Bob Kashak, could you get it? Oh, you got it inside your sword.
Okay, I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay.
So it says for pure, it says barar.
Bara, yeah.
Yeah. It says to purify, select, polish, choose, purge, cleanse, to make bright, to test or to prove.
To test or to prove is proven. You see, and why is it proven? Because when you go into the common definition, you get pure in the common definition. It tells you unadulterated, unmixed. Going back to the Tower of Babel, it said that the language is what's confounded. The Lord is returning that pure language. You see, it's been a ongoing process. You know, from that point. You see, that's why brothers, you know, is into the Lashwan Kodash. You know, but that was essentially it. But I wanted to show this right here. Is it clear? Hold on.
Yeah, move over just a little bit. Yeah.
Right there.
Got
All right. So right here, I got written. It says Mary, which Mary goes into bitter or rebellious. All right. Marine, it means essentially water. All right, but we know that it goes into well, I'll keep going. Labramar is Larissa, and then Mar. All right, Mar goes into the sea, but marine also applies to the sea. But they all come from the Hebrew word Mar, because when you this would apply to the pool of water before a river. All right, pretty much the starting point of a river, because it was Mayam Ra'ash. All right, the head or head water, the head waters of a river was usually bitter. You see, so they took the word bitter and they applied it to these different words, marine and then Laramar, All right, and that's how we can see that the language was watered down because essentially, Mara, Mar, Maraya, Marayam, all those go or Marya, Marar, all those go into being bitter. All right, and when you say it, it's not in use like it once was. Essentially communication and stuff like that is lost. Through language, but we can see the traces of the holy tongue. Halashwan Kodash, the holy tongue. You got anything else?
Nah, that was it.
Con.
Shoot.
Hey, well, Adoran Watazah, Zabana Yapa. Lord's will, that was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa Adoran Tazah, Atham Yashuam Tawab. Hey, Lord's will, you have a good day. We're going to close it out by saying, Call Layim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rachah, Kodash. Hey, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, that are pushing this truth with our righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. While marching out to say again, we went over the word marar, mar, all right, marah. So like I said that, but pretty much going into bitter. You see, so Lord's willing, that was edifying. Yahweh mahar, laha, bachayaryum. Hey, Godspeed to the elect. Hey, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.